today we're going to learn how to convert this model, a one-armed baby Yoda, into this design. The head initially was more to this concept. Oops. In that sense, what I did was use Smart Resim to get it to a more even appearance on both sides as we need it. Make our job a little easier. Get that a little bit more. Start with the simplest thing. So we are looking like helps to turn perspective off if you're doing any work. It might be a bit of an angle, turn off spotlight projection. Use your trim dynamic brush to quickly eliminate a large load of clay. Pull this back in. Trim dynamic brush again. When this happens, press cancel. Also, it might help to make a new project file for our new model without any undo history, and reload that in. See how much smaller it is. And we're back. Turn back perspective. Now we will work on the face. Now we have a tongue in here. It could probably stay where it is while we focus on the face. We need to close his eyelids, her eyelids. At least it's understood that she might be a she, or he might be a she, I don't know. The smile is fine, it's just that the mouth is closed fairly. You can use your inflate brush to bring that together to make a sort of pursed expression as she has in her sculpt, in her concept. Big chin. Don't worry about the low resolution at this time. We just want to make sure that we have most of the form settled in. You will have to add asymmetry eventually. You could even add it now. Give it a little bit more character. I like my open-eyed version, so I'll probably keep a copy of the head. When you blink, your eyes usually, it's the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid that tend to meet in the center. If you want to check that, you need a mirror. Well, it seems like the upper eyelid moves a lot more, so we should probably focus on that. Use your move topology brush, so it has a lot less influence than the other brush, the regular move brush. And use your inflate brush to bring it together again. Inflate brush will also tend to puff up the eyelids a little bit, but that is easily solved. So clay tubes brush, remember to turn on back face masking. Use your smooth brush to separate the lids. They are a bit closer together, so it's probably sensible to split them apart. Shape them up again. Reduce your clay tubes brush, see intensity. Looks like a Buddha. Lift it up. Purse the lips a bit more. Straighten this out. Straighten this out. Flatten this. Use your clay tubes brush. Build up in that area. It does seem to be a bit more inclined than we need it to be, so let's rotate it a little bit. Select the eyes, go into transparent mode and rotate them too. There. Now the face does seem to be a little arched. I mean, like a pyramid. It's a bit more squarish, so take your orb brush, just shape it out over there, smoothing as you go along. I didn't realize, but it seems like she has a heart on her forehead. At least given this design. Smart idea. So turn this up a little bit. Probably bring it together. Mouth is a bit wider than it needs to be, so Reduce that considerably. Okay, tubes brush to iron out a few discrepancies there. And we will be using the zero mesher to get the topology back. Need to move the mouth up a little bit. Don't need it to be that burst. I think this would be a good time to up, down, up, down, up, down. Up again. I believe that's her neck. It's going down there. Time to go into the clothes. Lift it up. Lift this up. Really don't like the shape of this. I mean, it's reasonable, but could be better. Same thing on this side. A bit of the focus. Select the ears. Control click to make the mask softer. Go into dots mode. Select what has not been selected. Control click again. Control click to alternate your selection. All those ears. Make sure they are precise as possible and lift them up. You can also shorten them a little bit. Then now these folds, not entirely clear because some of the concepts have them and some don't. Keep things consistent. I'm going to leave them in. Not an improvement, just they're okay for what we have. Solo the selection. Clean the mess we have down here. If it's too difficult, it's probably time for a remesh. If you have symmetry selected, zero meshing will be symmetrical too, and if you don't have it selected, then it won't be. So the ideal would be, since this is not too asymmetrical, we could go with a symmetrical zero mesh. We've gone with the default settings for remeshing. Cleaned up the mesh quite a bit. Reduce the detail considerably, but not so much. We can divide it to get a clean mesh again. This is just a modified clay brush. I think the only modification being the depth. Oh, and the stroke, actually. Or is it the intensity? It doesn't even use an alpha. Well, you could do just as well with the regular clay brush at a low intensity, which is basically exactly that brush. Looks a bit like a cat. I believe that was the inspiration. It's a pinch brush. Add it a bit more. We have lost considerable detail, but it's not possible to get it back. Increase it a bit. Too high. divide it more if it helps. And this is not a detailing pass, it's just a form pass, so we're not really looking to finish this yet, more just to get the larger forms and some of the softer forms. Just enjoy the process. When you use transparent, you can go behind these forms a lot more easily. I think it still needs to be higher up. Now that one's quarter. I also use the pinch brush just once over. So what I did there, once this way, once this way, maybe a little bit this way. Try to pull it up a little bit. Beignet. It's reasonable. And the arm. Usually helps to reposition this prior. Use your masking tools as much as possible. Whenever you get some pinching, just lift out. And rotate again. Now this is really close to the mouth. little scrunched up, and a bit rotated too. This way. Select this. And rotate it inwards. Rotate down. And drag up. Select this again. Get closer. Okay. Now you can use your move tool. Bring this a bit closer. This thing can be rotated in totality. Ignore that. Man, it looks weird. It's like a poor thing. It's a cast. Ooh, that's horrible. In times like these, we have a trusty Dynamesh to work on. Make things more manageable. This bump is just not there, actually. Like if you were to follow the concept more closely, this is kind of what we have. If you have the arm, but you have a fair bit of the outfit poking out the back too. To make sure that that translates into the sculpt. It's a bit more shaping. So be aware of how high this actually is in comparison. Shape her a bit more. She looks very stocky right now. Now I know that you can't really see this in a fold on this side, but you can see it on this side. So since I am going to duplicate it over, it would be best to just add it right now. With broad strokes. Round her a bit more. As we get those hands transported to the other side. We also need to do a save, just in case. As you can see, they're still quite far apart, so we need to bring them closer. Have a better idea of how close they ought to be and how much angle they need to have. And the same thing follows. We can actually close this thing without being an interference. Same thing here. May be able to rotate it a little bit. A slight sense of balance. That's also possible, so the best of both worlds. And since it's not there in the concept, we could potentially eliminate it. Pull it out and depress it. Maybe use the subdivision level as you need to smooth out a few kinks. And then raise this up as you need to. Try and mask that up. Might also consider, actually it's alright. Right, this would help. So it doesn't affect the other side. Sorry about that. Clearing throat during tutorial. Never a good sign. This will actually be combined together later, so it's trying to build up as much as possible, but yeah, whenever something like that happens, just press escape. Or die trying. And there you have it. Another baby Yoda. Not exactly complete, because there's still a lot more to do. There, it looks a lot more like that. Chinny chin chin. Little pig, let me come in. I dressed up as a pig at a fancy dress once. Actually, it was the Three Little Pigs kindergarten edition. And I was the pig which actually built the house of brick. So that says something, I feel. I still remember going up on stage and saying that speech. I don't quite remember the speech, but I remember how I felt. See how much a difference this makes when you make the eyes a little bit more like a C. J.Shari Ewing really captured the essence of this character superbly, which is what is helping us to translate into a sculpt so well, not effortlessly, but easily. Yes, this does require a lot of effort and practice. It's not something that I would say you need to work hard at it. He's so fat and chubby, like a dumpling. these are going to be readied for print, so there is all that process, but for the time being we are really looking to just capture the form and enough detail and then come back to all of them at the same time. I did finish 4 of them which I will be bringing in shortly to show you what I've done as demos. I didn't really speak during those. Maybe I probably should have, but I was listening to a lot of music and I think that's what I wanted at the time. So, but there's a lot more to do, and if you're watching this, you should watch it to some music as well. Maybe do something a Star Wars fan would do. I'll listen to Star Wars music, I suppose. So, since I had finished those, I used them as a base to make this one. There will be demos tackling characters built from scratch as well, with my voiceover to augment it, though it really depends. There's always something to learn from watching this, even if it is essentially unfinished. Okay. Widen the face a little bit more. I haven't actually watched this show. I hope I get the time to do that. But I just find the character quite endearing. I'm not pretty sure everyone wants to see something like this being made, so it seemed like a practical choice at the time. I'll give a little bit of asymmetry to the ears. Now you could just select them. rotate them around. Remember, this model is not ready for 3D print, not just yet. The model that would be used for 3D print, however, would have a fair bit of tweaks made to it to make it that much more usable for such a thing, such as thickening the ears, etc. The resin printers do quite a fantastic job, I've been told. So we may not have to do as much as we think, but it'll be an interesting process nonetheless. So I've taken a few liberties with the folds especially. I may remove them at some point, but for the time being I'm keeping them where they are. Just to keep things interesting. Okay. Can I just give her a double chin? I seem to have done that. Probably a good thing. Okay. So this is more like a trial tutorial, just to see if I have the chops. I think I do. It's a very casual tutorial, I can tell you that much, but interesting nonetheless, even in the classic style of I guess a doctor talking to a patient, I would think. However, there are demos of the previous sculpts that I've put up. You can see my face and listen to the music I listen to without actually hearing me speak, which I think was good for the time. All the tutorials going forward will have my voice in them. I will try to ensure that that is how it is, because it's too fun not to talk, you know. I also plan to have a few guests over, a lot of other artists that are attempting to get into the game industry and have to varying degrees. So there'll be that discussion as well. And a few other interesting interpretations of the medium. Try and do as much as possible with the opportunity we have now. What opportunity is that? The opportunity to sculpt with impunity. Is that the right word? I hope it is. But it basically means that you can sculpt, or I can sculpt rather, or we can sculpt if you join in, without any restrictions whatsoever. You're not doing this to get a job somewhere or anything of that, but just to share what we do as artists, which is what art and being an artist is all about. I think that that is far more important as an artist, to do that and keep pushing limits, surpassing limits. So like and share and subscribe. That's what young kids are saying these days. Not that I'm that old, but it's a first for me, I suppose. So there you go. Why is her head like a cone? Cone heads. Maybe I think I've seen, but I'm not sure. One of those meme thingies. I just increased the size of this brush and plastered it through there to give it a bit of a depression, a bit of a nick. Very well. You can probably do that on the other side too. Increase the brush. Bang. Oh, bam. Actually, come to think of it, I feel like it's okay. Does look a bit fat though. I think this is suitable. So, as is our tradition, once we've completed this to a certain degree, we bring in all the others. And I think this is a bit better, it's more shapely. Put a little bit in. I know that I'll be modifying this again. I feel like it wouldn't be that major a modification, but that's the nature of the beast of the artist, to keep going in and seeing new improvements. Another thing I plan to do on this channel is to revisit old work, go through the process of how everything was done, the mess I created when I was making them, and to learn and move forward as artists do. And I'll keep that. Okay, so another save is in order. Yoda 5. And our new project with new undo history. Look at this mess. I started with 79, went to 319, 400, 500, and that's primarily because I've been opening files and picking models, modifying them, and resaving them. Now, that's okay to do. It really depends. If this is personal work, then yeah, knock yourself out. But I don't usually recommend it professionally. I mean, why would you? But keeps things interesting, so that's something to look forward to, I suppose. Figuring things out later. But I do have a final file once everything is ready that I keep things together in, so for the moment this is good enough. Okay, so now to bring all the other Yodas in, we'll make the baby Yodas super small and position them similar to what we have. Maybe move a lot of this up and edit. Yoda 2, baby Yoda 1. So this was the first one I made. It also looks extremely deranged, but It usually is the case with the first ones most of the time. This was the second one I made. When they're not holding the things relative to the concept, which I'll be putting side by side so it doesn't look too creepy. Ah, no. I guess we're gonna have to bring them out again. So I believe it was this one, yeah. So as I was saying, when they aren't actually with their props, they look kind of insane, but that's fine. I mean, who knows where this character is actually going in the show. So which was the next one again? Yeah, this one. Oops, yeah, that's something else. That's peculiar. Ah! By Jove, it seems to be missing its feet. Absolutely peculiar. Well, no worries. We're gonna check that later. This one doesn't even have feet. I believe this is the one. Yeah. And that was Baby Yoda 3, I believe. I believe this is the one with the chicken. Move all of, oh, keep this up. Move all of these down. Too many Yodas to deal with. Ah, well, I screwed that up. No problem. Ah, man, just turn it off. And I'll bring in the last one. And then we'll set up the thing. It's probably more sensible. Yeah, here's the one with the feet. Good God, it was creepy. It's not really fitting, is it? Ah, this one will be a little bit smaller than the others. Yeah. It's also a bit more rotated than the others, so yeah. And now if I were to actually put all that together, we can reposition them like that, and then pick the ones we want, position them side by side. She looks so happy. Don't double click on it. Or what happened the last time happens again. No, don't double click that. Move it away, click, move it away. Click, click. I don't know if there's actually a feature that allows us to move this entire canvas. Not quite certain of that. Need to look into it. But yeah, this is what we have. This one has eyes, and my god, it looks freaky. But as you can see, the beauty of doing something like this is the opportunity to do different expressions in a sequence. It's kind of like speed sculpting. So when you have a lot of different expressions to work on at once, you start noticing differences instead of, like, following the route and just doing a specific expression all the way, which is also necessary to understand the process. But if you do a lot of different shapes, a lot of different forms, different types of eyes, different types of mouths, not to turn them into gameless models, but just because it's a challenge and it is a unique set of figures that you are looking at, so your eye gets trained in seeing those sort of differences, different poses, different like how the hands are positioned, the ears. That's an interesting thing, especially for this model. Every expression is augmented by the ears. In some cases, like this one, if the ears were above, it would probably not work with the kind of silhouette you have going. And that actually brings me to silhouettes. Like, the adorableness of this particular character is primarily because of how it is drawn and how it was designed, rather. So you have, like, the obvious mouse cat sort of face, and then a very poofy coat that it wears with dainty little arms and legs all tucked in. It is basically, well, a baby with very large floppy ears. I guess an elephant comes to mind, without the nose, of course, and it allows for a lot of expressions in its wrinkly face. Not as wrinkly, it's more fat than wrinkly, but and the baldness definitely adds a considerable lot of character to the model. So there's quite a few more, and the artist behind these concepts keeps making more. I would suggest visiting her site on Facebook and Instagram. She has done a lot more than this. Quite phenomenal work, and genuinely feel it should be more mainstream, if it isn't already. I mean, it's mainstream to me now because I got into it quite late, but that's off to you to have done this and continued with it. Quite amazing. So thank you for tuning in. Until next time.